Hello, and welcome to the Reykjavik Newsdesk. I'm Andie Sophia Fontaine, and these are the week's top stories in Iceland. If you like the content that you see here, be sure and like and subscribe. And if you really like the content that you see here, check out the Patreon link in the description below. Speaking of which, I'm very excited to announce that I will be doing my very first Ask Me Anything session this April 1st, and that's no joke. That's for $20 patron subscribers. Also, the poll on what I should report on poll, which is for $15 and $20 patrons, the first video of April is going to be based on the results of that poll. So if you want to get in on the AMA or if you want to do the poll, I suggest that you get in on the action now, and we'll be happy to have you. But now, let's do the week's top stories. Parliament passed a resolution recognizing Holodomor, a human-caused famine between 1932 and 1933 in the Ukraine, which killed millions of people, as genocide. Now, the exact causes of this human-driven famine are way too deep and way too broad to get into in this video. Let's suffice it to say that numerous countries in North America, South America, Europe, and Australia have recognized as Holodomor as a form of genocide. Iceland's foreign minister, Þórdís Kolbrún Reykjavík tweeted announcing the passage of this resolution, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky quote tweeted this, congratulating Iceland on taking this step. That same day, at a conference on national security and international affairs held at Harpa Concert Hall, NBL reports that Þórdís Kolbrún also recounted the siege of Borodianka, which is a small town north of Kiev, which was heavily bombarded by Russian forces early on in the invasion. She recounted how people of all ages banded together to defend the city, saying, quote, Ukraine refused to surrender. Russian Navy, fuck you, echoed across society. She added that this is not the language that she herself would have chosen to use, but she feels as though the message was important to get across. The Russian embassy in Iceland responded to this in a Facebook post, wherein they said that Þórdís Kolbrún used dirty language and said that this, quote, proves the inability of the Icelandic diplomacy to offer compelling arguments in favor of their position, as well as a common understanding of what is going on, end quote. Well, some people are offended by a minister saying the word. Other people are offended by the killing of civilians. It's all a rich tapestry. Some sad news, as Visa reports that a woman in her 20s, walking with her spouse near Glimmer Waterfall in Hvalfjörður, fell some 200 meters to her death. Rescue workers arrived at the scene very quickly, but she apparently died instantly in the fall. The conditions in the area were icy and slippery and just generally really poor for walking. That said, Jón Þór Viglunsson, who is a spokesperson for Landsbjörg, one of Iceland's rescue squads, told reporters that numerous tourist spots around the country are kind of dangerous to go to, and that authorities ought to be doing more to improve the tourist infrastructure because we do get a lot of tourists in this country, to make these areas safer for people to visit. Now, he's absolutely right about that. I mean, there are many natural spots all around the country that are very beautiful, breathtaking even, to visit. And I do encourage you to visit them all, but you should always take a number of factors into account. First of all, you should check the weather, and you should check the conditions in the area. Don't travel alone, and if you can, travel with a guide, especially into treacherous areas. Visit also reports that the National Police, in conjunction with the chief epidemiologist, have declared an end to the uncertainty level of preparedness against the coronavirus in Iceland. Iceland has been in various levels of preparedness, including emergency, since January 27th of 2020. Now, this does not mean that the pandemic is over in Iceland. The coronavirus and its variants thereof are still very much present in this country. People get sick from it still. People get hospitalized from it. People even die from it. In fact, 2022 was the deadliest year in Iceland for the coronavirus. This year, however, the infection rate has been declining. At the same time, so has the number of people getting tested. So because we're still in the middle of the pandemic, if you live in Iceland, I advise you to contact your local health clinic about getting a booster vaccination. As always, continue washing your hands. If you feel any of the symptoms coming on, get yourself tested. And if you test positive, do stay home. Likewise, if you're planning a trip to Iceland and you have some symptoms or you test positive, also stay home. You might have to eat some money to delay your trip, but that's a lot better than bringing a, deadly virus into the country. Lastly, RÚV reports that Pirate Party alternate MP Indriði Ingi Stefánsson posed a question to Minister of Justice Jón Gunnarsson asking twofold. Firstly, in his position as the minister who oversees the police, if he was going to be devoting more resources to the police to be able to track down stolen bikes, and if the police were going to do more to crack down on drivers who break the law, specifically against pedestrians and cyclists. For context, if you've ever visited Reykjavik, you might notice that it's very much a car town. Okay, the few blocks of pedestrian-only street that we get downtown is regularly you see people just ignoring the fact that it's pedestrian-only and driving down this street. Like delivery trucks and the disabled are allowed to drive down the street, but you'll see like people just deciding that they don't feel like going one block over and going down another street. They want to go down the pedestrian-only street. You regularly see cars parking on bike lanes, and the bus system, yeah, that's a subject of a whole other video. Now, Indriði Ingi pointed out that there's a person in Reykjavik who's known as the bicycle whisperer. And this is really fascinating. This guy has a knack for being able to track down stolen bicycles. And this is something that he just does because he feels like it, and he's really good at it. He doesn't have nearly the resources that the police do. And so, naturally, Indriði Ingi pointed out, what is it that this guy's capable of doing that the police cannot do? Well, the minister responded that the police do, in fact, enforce the law against drivers who violate the law against pedestrians and cyclists. And while Indriði said that's good, he believes the police ought to be doing more. So we'll see if that pans out. In any event, that's the week's top stories in Iceland. So again, if you like the content that you see here, be sure and like and subscribe. And if you really like the content that you see here, check out the Patreon link in the description below. Which reminds me, I want to thank Corinne Vasquez and Marion Ward for becoming patrons on the $20 level, Marion Moores and Laura Johnson for being patrons on the $15 level, and Stephen Ellis and Vivi Carvalho-Schaffner for being patrons on the $10 level. And as I said at the beginning of the video, my first Ask Me Anything session for $20 patrons will be April 1st. And again, that's no joke. It will be on April 1st. I'll be sending you notice about what time exactly it's going to be happening, as well as a link to be able to join. And the results of the poll, which is done by $15 and $20 level patrons, telling me what I should report on next. The results of that poll will be influencing and deciding the first video of April. So thank you so much for all of your support, everybody. Be good to each other.